That means we're starting, right? Welcome to episode 2 of Here We Grow. Today, I got Mo Money, Mo Problems, my main man, who is relatively, I would say, I mean, it's safe to say you're new to the business. You're still in your first year, but it feels like you're a seasoned veteran.
Man.
So I want to talk about today, the title of today's podcast is going to be your first 30 days in real estate. Which, man, your story for the first 30 days is one hell of a tale. So we're going to try to not divulge too much details, but we'll get into that at the end here. But first, I want to talk about because last episode I had Trevor Tompkins on, my business manager, who talked about getting your license, your courses, the prices. What was getting your license like for you and the courses? And how did you find like studying for that? And maybe you can talk about your job that you had before too, because obviously you were basically working a full-time job and then transitioning into real estate, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure being here with everyone. But yeah, no, thank you for having me.
So polite, dude.
I try. But yeah, I was working as a risk analyst full-time for a Crown corporation based out of Ottawa.
Right.
So essentially all I did was just look at financials for companies exporting or importing, and essentially see if their financials are worth lending to.
Right.
So it was fun. It was okay. But at the end of the day, it was just a desk job.
Mm-hmm.
It's not who I am. It took me a year to realize that,
Right.
but better late than never.
Yep.
So I was studying for the CFA. That got canceled a couple times. So that's the Chartered Financial Analyst exam.
Yeah, I knew that.
And then just making sure, man.
I did not know. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you elaborated.
But yeah, that was a bit tough. And then that was a big blow because obviously I didn't do what I was expecting to do with it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like I started my courses in March of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took a couple months off just because of some personal stuff going on. And then I ended up getting licensed at the end of October. So I think it was a total of 4 months with the 2 months off that I took.
Right.
So it was just, I would work 9 to 5 and then do my courses right after.
It's a full day.
Yeah.
Which you're now used to having full days because you work in real estate.
Yeah. It just never stops, man. So
never. So I guess that leads me to a second point, which is why real estate? What made you decide to go into this crazy industry?
Yeah. So a bit about my background. So I'm from Pakistan, right? My father back home was a developer.
Mm-hmm.
So we've kind of always been around real estate, but real estate back home and real estate here is a different ballgame, right? So
I'm told.
Yeah. So adjusting to the different kind of environments was a little difficult, and it was a little worrisome because it's very different to what we're used to.
Mm-hmm.
But just throughout the last kind of couple years before I was licensed, like we built a house and then we bought some pre-cons, and then my brother's like, you're good at this, so why not do it and help other people do the same? So I was like, why not? So I realized I'm not a sit behind the computer kind of person, and I like being around people. So that's why real estate.
So I was going to talk about this later, but you already touched on it now. And I know it's something that, you were pretty passionate about when you first got your license. You still are. But the pre-construction kind of style, I guess, of investing, it's very new to Kingston, I think. I think that there's a huge potential for this as the market continues to climb, which I'm hoping that it does. We're thinking that it's going to. But it's kind of a no-brainer the way that it works. But why don't you talk about your experience in like assignments, pre-construction, why it's a big opportunity? I mean, I know that you believe in Kingston now as well. I think Toronto has been huge for a while now.
Yeah.
It's very new to Kingston because our market wasn't going up that much enough to support it, I don't think.
Yeah.
But now I think there's a huge opportunity for it. I know you feel that way too. So why don't you talk about your experience with assignments, pre-construction, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so Kingston, I feel like, is still an untapped market. So for investors out of the GTA, I feel like it's a good place for them to invest. But all of our pre-cons were in the GTA. So one was in Pickering, one's in Caledonia, about 15 minutes from Hamilton, and then the other one being in Barrie. We haven't assigned either of them just yet, but all of them are up quite a bit from the last time we purchased. So I always say pre-construction is good because not only are you buying a property, but you're buying time. And that's the best part about it, right? So you could have a deposit of 80,000 or 100,000, which you're going to put down anyways, but now you can put it down through the course of a year instead of in a month.
As that property only goes up in value.
And that's exactly it. So
right. So I think there's more opportunity for that. I think the biggest kind of challenge is that we've got no inventory. The builders don't even have inventory. So as more builders start to release stuff, this is when, obviously it's important to have a good realtor to, that knows what's going on so they can get you in the, the front door of these things. Why real estate? We talked about that. We talked about your background. Now, why EXP? Why? Yeah. why did you call me up? I want to hear that too, because I don't know how deep we've got into that.
Yeah.
And just talk about researching your brokerages and why you picked here and how you made that decision. Because for me, it was very easy. My dad owned a brokerage. There was only one place I was going, or else I was getting disowned from the family. Yeah. So how did you decide where to go, and what did that kind of process look like?
Yeah. So I don't know if I'm allowed to name the other brokerages, but obviously there's the Remaxes, the Realty Page, the KWs, and the Century 21.
Okay,
right?
I thought you were going to say, I don't know if I'm allowed to name these brokerages. However, here's the brokerage, the exact one, and this one. Anyways,
I wasn't sure.
Yes, there are the big names. You can name them. Why not?
Okay, sweet. Yeah. So obviously, talk to the big names. I did my thing, but the biggest thing for anyone starting out is startup costs, right? So when you come to a brokerage like EXP, a cloud brokerage, your only really cost is your brokerage fee, which is like $139 to use everything that they offer. Whereas when you go to these other ones, you got your bigger splits. There's no commission cap, and then you got your desk fees. For someone starting out, not making a lot of money, $400 or $500 a month on top of every other expense you already have, it's just too much. So the reason why EXP made so much sense is because they're so cloud focused, and I don't even see them as a real estate brokerage anymore. They're a very tech focused company. Yeah. And moving forward, I think tech and real estate just go hand in hand.
Absolutely. So you made a good point there too, which is going to perfectly transition into my next thing, which is obviously the main thing I want to talk about was like the first 30 days in real estate, first 90 days in real estate. I think you made a good point. You have to almost expect that you're not getting paid for almost like at least 6 months, because it's going to take you 1 to 3 months. If you're lucky, you do business in your first 30 days like you did. I shouldn't say lucky. If you work hard, you should be able to do that. But the closings are 30 to 90 days out. So for somebody getting into the real estate license, they've already invested somewhere between $5,000 and $6,000, depending on how many times you fail your courses. Apparently, you have to pay every time you fail to rewrite the test. But you already have a significant amount of money invested, and then you're not even going to, turn a profit or make $1 for 3 to 6 months. So it's difficult to. I don't know that people understand like how long it actually takes to finally turn stuff over. Yeah. So let's get into it. What did your first 30 days look like? And I guess let's start with like, what were the challenges that you had starting out and even like your first couple of weeks?
Yeah, no, for sure. So going back to what you said, you're not making any money, right? And you already have all these costs. But I feel like for people like us and like other realtors out there, when you're first getting started, if you're not hungry, it's not going to work. Right. Because I think you told me it's an 80 or 90% failure rate for most realtors in their first
80% in the first 2 years, 90% fail in the first 5.
Yeah. So, I mean, I definitely don't want to be there. Right. So that what keeps me hungry. Yep. And I think that's what kind of led to me getting my first deal. I think it was like 2 to 3 weeks in. And that was just a land deal, and it wasn't anything big, but it was just good to get one under my belt. Right. And then the second one was just through a cold call. So I do a lot of cold calls, and I just got one through there, and that was a very interesting situation as well. But we got him good money for his property, so it all worked out.
So, and I don't think a lot of realtors or people that are getting into this business realize how hard it is to generate business, especially if you don't have a big network. Yeah. Which, like for me, when I was getting into the business, I was 21 years old. Nobody I knew or hung out with was buying houses. Yeah. So Kingston's a small town. I was born and raised here. I knew a lot of people from here. But that also didn't necessarily mean, which I learned really fast, just because you know somebody, even just because you're friends, or even worse, just because you're family, doesn't necessarily mean somebody's going to call you and do business with you. And that's why I always talk about the big word I use is earning business. I really believe in earning business. So if my friends or family didn't call me, it's because I didn't express my value to them. And they didn't see it. So it's a grind for the first, my father's always said it's the first 3 years of, working your ass off until you finally get some referral and repeat business. But I don't think a lot of people, and I don't think you give yourself enough credit for this. A lot of people don't make those cold calls. Like, you're straight up, like you say cold calls, like these aren't lead generated. This isn't somebody that like clicked on, on a link. You're literally calling like the old days in the phone book. Like you have the yellow pages pretty well.
We got access to a telelisting, right, through EXP. So I'll just sit down every morning and I'll look at recently solds. And whenever someone from kind of our brokerage sells something, I'll just look, and if it's a nice neighborhood or whatever it is, like if the price point is good, and I know there's people who'd be looking to sell because since they've bought, it's gone up quite a bit because it gives people an incentive to sell, right? So I'll call them, and it's just like, hey, this is who I am. Most people don't want to talk, but then there's always people who are interested. And it's always about planting those seeds in their mind.
So I think that the other thing that people don't realize how much work goes into this business. It's very, very, very difficult. You have had a lot of doors slammed in your face, but I think what's important is all we can do is get in front of those doors, right? Because eventually some of them are going to be open. So you put in the work, you made more phone calls than anybody else, and then you finally got business or listings or buyers or whatever. And then you realize that that's the job ain't done yet, right? So, do you feel comfortable talking about, we'll leave names out and stuff, but the first experience, your first, actual semi-detached property, getting it listed, I thought you brought a lot of value to the table, but you were met with some objections, I guess we'll say. And you had to overcome that, which I was very impressed with how you handled it for somebody who's so new in the business. I think that part of what makes a good realtor is being able to solve problems, and you were very good at solving the problems that this particular seller had.
It was a very interesting situation, and I've always been told, like, we're in the business of lead generation, but we're also problem solvers, right? If you can't solve a problem, you can't work in real estate.
100%.
So it was a funny situation because I had an email come through, and I was sitting in the parking lot of Freshco, which is a grocery store here in Canada, right? So I get your text, and you're like, hey man, what's going on with this email? And I was like, what email? And then you're like, check your email. So I went through it, and then obviously there were some hurdles and stuff, and a couple hiccups here and there, I'd say. But at the end of the day, like, it was just a bit of a mistake. You know what I mean? And something kind of fell through. It wasn't anyone's fault. It's just stuff sometimes happens. But at the end of the day, it's all about how we kind of handle the situation. And I told him, we're going to take care of it. And we did. And it took about a day to get those little things fixed. And then things were ready to go, and he got more money than he wanted. So that's what matters.
But I think most. the other aspect of that situation too is you brought a lot of value to the table, and you had a client who maybe didn't see your value, and you had to keep circling back and explaining where your value was coming from and what you had to offer. And it's tough, man. It's a tough business. Sometimes I make the joke that we feel like dancing monkeys, because it's like, that you got to show off to a certain extent and show what you can do, without bragging necessarily. And we're basically at the mercy of what our clients need. And we have to be able to, facilitate those needs and make sure that they understand what we're actually bringing to the table. Because I think a lot of people have a misconception about realtors that, well, hey, I would say one of the big ones is that it's easy money, and more money, more problems will tell you it ain't easy money, dude.
But no, it's funny you say that too, because with that specific situation too, we always ask people what's most important to them in the sale of their home,
right? And
for most people, like I'd say 90%, it's the money, right? But for some, it's about people, like 100 people not going through their home or this or that. But the thing was, it was sold before it hit the market, right? So I figured out what was important for him, and I sold his property before I hit the market. But at the end of the day, it's not what he was looking for, even though that was the number that I was first kind of handed.
It was sold and then unsold. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, it was sold and unsold. And all I needed was a couple initials and a couple signatures, and it was a done deal. But this specific individual wanted to test the waters. And so we did. I mean, all the work was done, right? Pictures, videos, marketing, all that kind of stuff was done. So at that point, it's like, if you want to test the waters, let's test the waters.
Which is fine. And I think actually this is a good point and a good topic, because I think this is going to become more relative moving forward in the market as it potentially transitions, because as we can tell, like, things are starting to slow down a little bit. I don't think they're falling off, the cliff, but things are slowing down. We're not seeing crazy, double digit offers as much as we were on properties. At least I'm not.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we used to do a lot before the market got so crazy was selling properties before they even hit the market, like the silent market of real estate, where the good deals go before anyone's ever heard of it.
Yeah. It's
when realtors have access to properties that money may not be the most important thing to them, whether it's a distressed sale, divorce case, a bank foreclosure, whatever. And they have the opportunity to move that before it hits the market. So we were doing a lot of that because there's a way to create a win-win situation for a buyer and a seller. Maybe, like you said, it's important to the seller that they don't want to have, I mean, especially in today's world, they may not want to have 100 people through their house over the course of a week.
Yeah.
They may not want to take a gamble at listing their property low and holding offers and trying to see what they can or can't get, because there's risk in that as well. And I think over the last few years, or the last 2 years, I guess I should say, there hasn't been a lot of risk. Every property was selling that hit the market. So I mean, the whole game was listing it low, trying to bring in a ton of offers, getting somebody to make an emotional purchase and overspend. But now I've seen even on my own listings, my last probably 3 listings, where I've been shocked in the sense of, I can't believe it didn't go higher than this.
Yeah.
So some sellers might not want to take that risk in listing low and trying to hope that, the bids go high. And they might say to the realtor, listen, if you we're hoping to get, 600K, but if somebody was going to bring us 575, we'd probably take it and not take that risk, because there's no guarantee that we actually get 600K when we go to the market. So I think there's a huge opportunity for that, for the realtors who are willing to put in the work, and try to, create opportunities for their buyers and sellers that way.
Yeah.
Because it used to be like, hey, it's in your best interest to bring this thing to the market. Yeah. Ain't nobody know what's going to happen with this thing. Right.
Yeah.
So, all right. So there's one more cool thing that you're doing, that I want to talk about, because it's a passion of mine. It's something that I did when I first got started. But you found yourself an opportunity to do a flip, and did you close on it this morning?
Yeah, I signed some paperwork, but I got to go back and get them that draft. I was
right
when they told me that number, I was like, let me think about it. Let me come back to you guys really quick. So,
so you're closing on it soon, hopefully.
Today. Yeah.
Okay,
I just got to go. The bank wasn't open, I guess.
Right. Because the early bird gets the worm.
Yeah.
So talk about what made you want, because you haven't done a flip. This is your first flip, right?
It's my first flip. Yeah.
Okay. So what made you want to do a flip?
Well, that's the thing. Our business as realtors, it's very cyclical, right? And for me, I've always been told I can't always depend on selling or helping people buy.
Yep.
Like, obviously that's a big part of our business, but there's different aspects of real estate that I have to include into my own business, right? And at the end of the day, like, I am 24, and for me to be able to provide investors value at some point in my life or at some point in my career, I need to do it myself, right? So for me to do I got licensed at the end of October, but quit my full-time job at the end of January, right? So I'm 2-3 months in full-time.
Yeah.
So for me to be able to do this very early on, kind of get it under my belt, and then hopefully do a few more going forward, it's that extra value I provide to anyone who I now meet who could potentially be a client.
100%. And I don't know how much you followed Grant Cardone after we saw how crazy he was on stage at the EXP conference. But I followed that guy for a very long time. And obviously he's a big sales coach for anybody who doesn't know who Grant Cardone is. But one of the things he's always said is, if you're going to sell something, you need to believe in it. And if you're not willing to buy it yourself, then you shouldn't be selling it. So, and my thing that I've always said is, I obviously want to, I wouldn't have, starting a podcast called Here We Grow if I didn't believe in creating wealth for myself.
Yeah.
So, but what I've watched over the years is how many people have created like serious wealth from investing in real estate.
Yeah.
And I've realized over the years that I will never create the amount of wealth that I want to create from selling real estate I'm going to create it from owning it and
estate.
investing in it.
Yeah.
So which you figured out very early on. And I think that's awesome that you're doing this and getting, cause now you're going to have, a pre-construction investment style. You're going to have the flips. I'm sure you're going to get into multi-residential down the road. It gives you the opportunity to bring this knowledge and experiences. And unfortunately, we learn from our mistakes. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yeah.
But it gives you the chance to bring that to your clients moving forward. And I think that's awesome.
And that's the thing too. I mean, so I picked this up off market, right? And it was just through someone who I met on Facebook, believe it or not, right? So it's all about, he was a wholesaler. So to those who don't know, wholesalers are not realtors, right? So they'll reach out to sellers who want to sell their property. They'll get them under contract, and then they sell you that contract. So obviously they have their own fee into this contract, right? And at the end of the day, the way I saw it, I was like, yeah, it was a nice fee for him. But at the end of the day, if I don't make sure he knows he's worth it, he's not going to bring me another deal. Right. So
that's just like wholesalers, one, but also realtors right there.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I don't mind paying you X amount of money because what you brought me was essentially $400K under market value. Right. So yeah. So I was like, this amount of money I'm okay giving this to you. I don't mind. And honestly, I negotiated down 5K.
Right.
So
because you're in real estate and that's what we do.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? The number that they first throw out is not always the number they want.
Yeah.
You can always work on it. And I'm Brown, man. We love negotiating. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, we can negotiate. And we did. And, closings today. So hopefully we'll get that done. It's a complete gut job, but I mean,
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
You're going to have to get Brent behind the camera here to document this. This excursion of yours.
Yeah, I'm super, super excited. It's gonna be fun.
Cool, man. Awesome. Anything else you want to touch on before we wrap things up here? Or?
Yeah, no, I think you asked me one question why I reached out to you.
Right.
I think I just saw you on social media and you would kind of just always pop up on stuff. And I was like, you know what, man, I'm big on social media. I love social media. I think for people getting into real estate, people who are already there, it's the best way to generate free leads instead of paying for them. And when we went to EXPCon, they always said, if you put yourself out there, good things come. And I was like, you know what, man, I won't ever know until I try. Right. So I saw you doing it. I was like, Pat's doing it. I can do it.
If this idiot can do this well on social media, I'm a white.
See, I didn't think of it that way. I was like, you know what? Pat's doing well.
You are though, bro. I got to give you the props where respect is due. You're doing really well on social media. For anybody who's not following him already, the plug is, what's the MTB _?
Real estate. Yeah, that's me, man. Go follow me on there. Follow Pat. And yeah, if you guys ever have any real estate needs, reach out to Pat. If you don't want to reach out to him, reach out to me.
All right, bro. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me, man.
And as we're going to wrap up every time, here we grow.
Peace.